And welcome to another recording of Table Talk. Let me remind you that the team at UMI is here to take the hard work out of finding and using the best information, expertise, and finance. Our role is to help your business go further. Today, I'm joined by my colleague Kanta Mal and our very special guest, Janet Bebb from Social Progress.
And for those of you that don't know Janet Bebb, she's the director of Social Progress, which is an award-winning social media and digital marketing agency. Janet's also been a trainer on the Digital Knowledge Exchange program, and we're really pleased to have her here today.
So thank you very much for joining us today, Janet.
That's no worries, that's fine, Pascal. Good to see you again, and you, Kanta.
Yes, thank you. So the reason we have you with us today is we were very keen to invite you on this platform to share your insights into how to get better results when using advertising on social media. And in particular, I would say Facebook and Instagram. I think they are the platforms that I want to explore with you. But before we move on to some of the questions we have for you on behalf of our audience, I wonder whether you'd be happy to maybe tell us about your journey, professional journey around social media. How did it all start, and how did you get to essentially launching Social Progress and do what you do now for your clients?
Yeah, that's no problem. So it's in October, it will be 8 years since we set up Social Progress. So we set up in November 2011. And I'm probably not from a traditional background that you would kind of expect for social media. So I haven't got any marketing qualifications. I'm not from a technical background. However, sort of my background is more, I worked in a bank for 27 years, very much on customer service side of things, change management, those kind of job roles, if you like. I moved from there and went to work for a training provider. So I did some stand-up training, NVQ assessing, and then from that I moved on to something called employer engagement. So there was a funded program called Train to Gain, which I worked on that program, which was going out to day nurseries, care homes across the Yorkshire and Humber region, and just sort of doing skills gap analysis, really working out what training they needed to have and sourcing funding. That got taken into Business Link, so I went to work at Business Link as a business advisor. And then when Business Link closed down, at that time I started using social media, started using LinkedIn, primarily to find customers, clients, that kind of thing, and also just build my network of people that could refer potential clients to me. And I really didn't find it that difficult to use. It kind of made a lot of sense to me. So it's probably it was the first platform that I sort of embraced, if you like. And then I had somebody that asked me when I was working at Business Link, he asked me if I would do some training with him because he understood that I wasn't finding it difficult. And he said, would you show me how to use it, and I'll pay you, and we'll do it when Business Link is closed. And I thought, actually, why not do that? That sounds a great opportunity. I'll give it 6 months, see how it goes, and if it doesn't work out, then I've tried it. So I'd never had my own business until that point, but then we've never looked back since. A funny story for you, actually, on that though, is my son, who now works with us and has worked with us for the last year, at the time he was using Facebook, 17, 18 years old, and people were saying, Alex, you really shouldn't be posting that on Facebook. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, what on earth is he putting on there? So really I joined Facebook in a sense to find out what he was posting, and I sent him a friend request and he accepted it, and then he blocked me. So even to this day I still don't see what he posts on there because there's some sort of bug in the system that means I can't see what he posts. But actually when I looked at it, it just really got me looking at it from a marketing point of view and a business point of view, and thinking, actually, this is an amazing tool to use to get yourself out there into a world that you've never been able to do before. So in a sense, he kind of helped me on the journey getting into social media, really. So that's kind of how it all started, really. And obviously every other platform, you just kind of got to get on and embrace it and find out how it goes and that kind of thing. So that's how it started up, really. So I literally fell into doing what I do.
Yeah, but do you think that your the early stages of your career have been helpful? Has there been some, as we call them, transferable skills, or
Yeah.
way of looking at business has been very helpful for you to get value from social media?
I think everything that I've done in the past fits into what I do now. So when I worked in the bank, it was very much about customer service. And I all of my career, when I've looked at things that I've done, and I still do it now, I look at whatever it is that we're working on. How does it affect the business? How does it affect the customers? How does it affect the staff? Always, those are the three elements to me that you need to think of how it affects those three elements. And if you are looking at it from that angle, you kind of get the right solution, if you like. And yes, I think working as a training provider means that I can stand up and do the training, and it's not a big deal for me. Having said that, and I think you're probably the same, Pascal, I do not go and stand in front of a room and think, fantastic, I've got an audience. For me, it's not about that. If people go out of a room knowing more than when they came in, I'm happy. And that's what floats my boat. If I get some feedback later that says, thanks for that training because I can now do this, that, and the other, and it's giving people confidence, that's all I want from it, really. So, and also what I didn't say in that is I did, when I was probably about late 30s, early 40s, I had a really keen interest in psychology and decided to go to night school and do a psychology A-level just because I kind of found it interesting. And actually, when you think about social media, a lot of it is about how we socially interact. And if you understand the principles of how we face-to-face interact and then transfer that into the social media world, if you like, that's what makes social media work. If you take the principles that you would use in everyday life and just use those, organically, authentically, if you like, within social media, you'll get the right results.
No, and I think if I could build on that, and then we'll move on to the three segments of this interview. I'm going to argue that to use social media well in business requires an element of maturity, an element of life and business experience that you bring to the fore. And therefore, as sometimes, what we find with some of our customers, the temptation to say, because it's social media, let's ask a younger person to be in charge of it almost, without the support from seniors.
And one of the things we okay, so yeah, I mean, you mentioned about it being a level of needing a level of maturity, and I totally get that. I think one of the things that we try and encourage people to do is thinking about social media from a strategic point of view. And often what happens if you give social media to a young person, and this is not me saying that a young person can't do social media, to me it's not about age. It's about understanding how social media fits into the marketing strategy and how that marketing strategy then fits into the business strategy. And now often what happens, as you probably have found yourself, Pascal, is like people, businesses do give social media to the young person and go, there you go, you can do it. And yes, that's fine because they can navigate the platforms really easily. But if they don't understand it from a strategic point of view and they don't understand what they're trying to get as outcomes, they're not going to get the right results. It's just going to be noise. And then they'll say, well, social media doesn't work. Well, yes, it does work, but they've not actually told anybody, well, this is what we want to achieve from our social media. It's interesting because I had a training session on Tuesday. There's a young man there who actually I'm having a chat with tomorrow, and he stood up and said, I'm 19 years old and I'm a social media consultant. We were doing some training on LinkedIn, and it amused me slightly because I kind of thought, well, do you know what, I'm 59, I have no issue with telling people how old I am, 40 years difference, and he contacted me after the session and said, I'm finding that people won't take me seriously. Can you give me any advice on that? And I'm having a call with him tomorrow, and I will help him with that. There's no reason why people won't take him seriously, but he has to earn that respect and do some things to kind of get himself out there so that people see him as an expert in his field. Just as we all do with everything that we do, we have to put some things out there that people know that actually we know what we're talking about. And if you can't demonstrate that, then people won't take you seriously in whatever you do, really, whether it's social media or anything else, really. So, yeah.
But thanks for sharing the story. But I think credit to that young man to get in touch with you.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, and I'm absolutely happy to help somebody who, if he's able to reach out to me and ask that question, I'll go for that. That's brilliant to me. A lot of people would be like, well, I'm not going to ask because it shows my vulnerabilities. But I actually thought, well, good on you for contacting me. There's plenty of work out there. It's not about, well, it's competition or whatever. It's like, let's just help people. It's as simple as that, really. So, yeah.
So let's get into the topic of our conversation, advertising on Facebook and Instagram. And we think of 3 elements for this conversation. Number 1, to explore what I call the challenge. Why is there perhaps a level of hesitation or disappointment in and around advertising? Once we've explored that, I want to move to the second segment, which is about the solution. So what would be your recommended steps, Janet, based on your experience, that could help somebody either start for the first time or at least improve what they're doing right now with advertising? And then third segment, which is more of a catch-all around your maybe favorite or recommended apps and tools that can make life a little easier. So if I start with the first one, I certainly get the reaction when I go through my training consultancy kind of activities where there's still quite a lot of hesitation and nervousness around advertising on social media, or I get a reaction, well, I've had a go, it didn't work, therefore I'm out. Why do you think we're still not quite where we need to be in the UK when it comes to using advertising?
I think partly, it sounds awful, but I think in some respects, and I did mention this to Facebook when we went down to Facebook in London in March, and I did actually mention this to Facebook, I think they've, in some respects, shot themselves in the foot. Because what they've done is they've encouraged people, businesses, to advertise on Facebook and Instagram. Everywhere you look, when you put a post up, it's encouraging you to boost that post, boost this, boost that, which is fine. And I understand why Facebook are doing that. At the end of the day, they need to build the revenue. They're a business like anybody else, so they've got to build the revenue. And so what's happened is a lot of businesses, and again, I came across a gentleman probably 6 months ago who had an amazing product, and I thought, do you know what, if he did some advertising, this will be brilliant for him. And so I approached him. He'd done a talk about his product, and I just mentioned about the advertising. He said, do you know what, I tried it, it just doesn't work, it's pointless, there's no reason, there's no did you boost the post or did you actually do the ads manager? And he said, well, I boosted posts, but they don't work. And what happens is people boost a post, but they're using the same audience time and time again. So what they're doing is marketing to the same people over and over again. Well, over time, you're going to get less and less results. Initially, you'll get some great results. Fantastic, this really works. I've hardly spent any money and I've got some great results. But over time, you're going to get less and less results. It's not going to work quite so effectively. And then people get disheartened, then they kind of go, I'm out, it doesn't work. And actually, what they're doing is they're doing the adverts largely the wrong way. So I'm not saying don't boost a post. And if you wanted to try it out for, just try something out, then fine, yeah, boost the post. But again, it's back to that strategy. If you don't know what you're trying to achieve from your adverts, you'll not get the results. So it's some of that really. It's making sure that you're using the right tools and techniques to get the right results, really. So I think that's why people get a little bit disheartened with the advertising, and it's not having the knowledge to understand how put an advert together in the right way, and what all the variables are and how you can tailor that, tweak it to get your best result, really. So, yeah.
Kenta, what's your reaction to that?
I was just going to say, what would you say are the 3 key points in a Facebook advert to be successful?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously starting from the ads manager point of view. So, you know, if you go into ads manager, you'll see down the left-hand side of the screen, it will take you through a process. The first part of it is, what's your objective? So, you know, that could be as simple as we want brand awareness, or it could be that we need people to interact with our posts, or it could be that we want to send people to Messenger, or it could be that we want people to go to the website. There's a whole host of examples, if you like, that you can kind of go, well, actually, that's the one we want to work on. So I'd say that, you know, it's definitely go for Ads Manager. So the second part I would say is probably the audience. So making sure that you're choosing the right audience, basically you've got essentially three different types of audience that you can have. So there would be the core audience. That's you kind of saying, I think my target audience are, for example, between 35 and 55, male and female. Based in Leeds, and are interested in cars, for example, if you were if you were a garage or maybe selling cars or something like that. So basically what you're doing is you're essentially deciding who you think your audience is, which is fine, and obviously there's lots more to it than that, as you know, choosing the right interests and behaviours and that kind of thing within social media, within Facebook. But the next thing that you can do is you can take your email database, if you like. As long as you've got express permission to market to those individuals, you can take that data from, if you've got it on, say, MailChimp or some other email marketing software, you can download it from that software, and then you can upload that into Facebook, and you can advertise to that target audience. So they're people that have already expressed that they want to be connected to you and hear about you and hear what you're up to. So it's an audience that already know you. So that's fine, but you might kind of go, well, that's all well and good, but I've already sold to them, so I don't really want to sell to them again. But then once you've done that, you can then create what they call a lookalike audience. Now, a lookalike audience is based on that customer audience, So the customer audience, what it will do is it'll look at your customer audience and kind of go, right, well, we know that those people are such and such an age, live in such and such place, etc., etc. And it will look at how those custom audience people, what do they interact with on Facebook and Instagram? Who do they follow? What are their behaviours? And it will look for more people like those. So we'll help you find a new audience that's not connected to you right now, but potentially could buy products or your services. So I think that's a really key element of advertising, and that's where if you're using your advertising budget correctly, that's where you're going to get the best results from doing something like that. Another thing that you can do with the advertising is when you change some of the variables, you can decide, well, I only want to advertise on Saturday between 6 and 8, and on Sunday between 10 and 4. So you can change, there's lots of settings that you can change on there. And another thing we always advocate is that you do a lifetime budget rather than a daily budget. Because if you daily budget, however much you tell Facebook to spend on Facebook and Instagram and the rest of the suite of products you can advertise in, Facebook will spend that amount. So if you say spend £5 a day, guess what? It will spend £5 a day. If you say I've got a budget of £75 over 2 weeks, it will look at when your audience is most active online, and it will sort of spend that budget accordingly. So if your audience is more active over a weekend, it'll spend more over the weekend and less during the week. So it's making your budget work much better for you than just kind of going, I just want to spend £5 a day. So those are kind of some of the tips that we sort of give to people and recommend that they use those. So it's changing the adverts up a little bit and making sure that you're changing things. Also, another thing that we recommend is that people do look at the stats at the end of it and have a look and see how it's performed, and then work out from that, has it been successful? What do we need to change? Analysing who it's going to. Did it hit the right target audience? We ran an advert quite a while back now for it's a heavily meat orientated restaurant, and we expected it to be young guys between the age of 18 and about 25, 30, which we did get that, but we got a mixture of male and female. And we did get some young people. Then we got a gap of not many people engaging with it, and then we got quite an older demographic interacting with the advert as well. So it wasn't what we expected, but what that meant is that when we did the next advert, we could tailor the adverts to being younger demographic, but also an elder demographic, and putting the advert out accordingly to those audiences. So it helped us to tailor the next round of adverts. So, yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you.
So I'm almost thinking, so you could almost, put a budget to one side to do some very, very clever market research. If you don't have much insight into your audience, what you just described, without that, essentially the data feedback loop, you could have continued to assume that the audience was, a young male between the age of 18 and 25 and be not as informed as you are. How difficult is it to get your head around the platform of Ads Manager?
It's not that difficult, and one of the things that Facebook are doing all the time is trying to make that much more user friendly, let's say. And this is the challenge, I think, in some respects, in that if you embrace it now, you're kind of learning as you go along, and as it changes, you're changing with it. And because you recognise that, something's changed there, what's the change? And then you can work with it. And the longer you leave it and you don't use it, and then you come to look at Ads Manager, and it's a bit like a lot of people these days, I would imagine, it's the same principle when it comes to Google Analytics, for example. You look at Google Analytics and people go, whoa, I don't know what I'm looking at here, and then they come straight back out because there's almost too much in there for them to absorb, and they don't know where to look to start. And I think, although Facebook are trying not to go down that route, I think, and they are trying to make it as easy as possible for people, and I think it's just a case of embracing it and trying a few things out. Having said that, I do think that, there's loads of resources out there. There's training that you can go on to. I know we've delivered training for, before on these subjects. We deliver them all the time anyway. And also, there's loads of resources on the actual Facebook blueprint. So there's something called Facebook Blueprint. You can have a look on there, and there's loads of little nuggets, if you like, that will give you guidance on how to use it effectively. So, but a lot of it is like anything in life. It's trial and error. So you test a bit, you see if it works. If it doesn't work, you analyze it. I think one of the biggest things is people try it, but they don't analyze the results and then mix it up a bit. And also, as something that we talk about quite often is, social media is not overnight success. You're not gonna do one advert and you're gonna get thousands of new clients on board. It's kind of slow and steady wins the race, if you like. So it's about doing something consistently. And it's also, for me, it's about having social media as part of your marketing mix. We have some people that kind of expect social media to do everything for them, but they're not doing other things. So they might not have any branded assets out, or they might not have a shop or I don't know, a vehicle that's sign wrapped or something like that, or a website. So you can't really expect social media to work in isolation. And if you do, you're going to have to put a lot of resource behind that to make it work, really. So it's an interesting one as well. It's like we recognised a couple of weeks back, people kind of say social media doesn't work, but they never pick up their business card and go, this business card has never brought me any money. It doesn't work. They don't do that. But their expectation of social media is that it's going to all of a sudden be this miracle cure for everything. And it's definitely, it's not. It's just a part, you've got to get all the variables right. You've got to have good branding. And when people come to the end result, they need to get to something that is useful for them, really. So a lot more to it than meets the eye, let's say.
No, you're absolutely right. So if we go back to the example of the restaurant, what else do they have alongside social media to either bolster the social media results or indeed to, so what else was in the marketing mix that was interest?
Obviously, they've got the benefit of having a physical location. So they're a restaurant, so there is somewhere where people can go to. They'd also, their website looks, amazing. So they've got a fantastic website. So, people can look at the social media, look at the website and get a sense of, okay, well, I've looked at some things on social media, I've looked at the website, they can book through the website, they can book a table through the website. In their branding was fantastic. The imagery was fantastic. They'd had some photos done, some professional photos done. So they'd done a lot of things to make sure that the message outwardly was very professional. So they showcased, the type of restaurant that it is. So it's nice and colourful, lots of meat in there. I know that's not for everybody, but obviously their market was meat eaters. So they'd done quite a lot with that. They'd also done some email campaigns. So they'd done, just as I said before about the custom audience and lookalike audience, we had used data from an email campaign, uploaded that into Facebook. We'd done a custom audience and we'd done a lookalike audience to try and find a new demographic. So we had done some of that work, and what they did is they had like almost what they did. A lot of our clients have a monthly budget to put into the advertising, and what we try and encourage people to think about is there's the cost of us doing the adverts when we're managing social media for clients, but there's also the cost of the advert itself. So, and those two things we try and keep quite separate so that the client knows exactly how much they're spending in their ad campaigns and how much time it takes us to do those. So, yeah, I think it's it is useful to kind of look at those and then reflect on those and kind of think, well, how do we change it, and who do we need to be? Who do we want to get in the restaurant? What demographics do we think is the right demographic for us? So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Kenta, you had a question about the platforms as we were preparing for the call.
Yes, that's right. So it was just really around Instagram and Facebook, and what are the main benefits of both of those platforms?
Okay, so again, this is something that Facebook said to us when we went down in March, which really resonated with me. Instagram is for inspiration, Facebook is for communication, which I think is really so simple, but it's sometimes we kind of forget that. So if you're posting on Instagram, it has to be that the picture is something that people really want. It's got to have a wow factor, and it's something that people want to look at. And we often find a lot, we've just had a look at one this morning actually, and on Instagram the images are just full of text. People are not going to click on that, they're not going to see that, they're not going to be able to see it on the phone, they're not going to engage with it in the same way. So it's very much about thinking, within your business, what can you present that inspires people and invites people to click in and see more of what you're doing. With Facebook, it's very much about the communication. So, how do you get people engaged with you, asking questions, encouraging people to actually be posting on your posts or posting comments. So often, and we do the same, you'll see the same content on both on Instagram and on Facebook, and it's not a big deal, but you just have to accept that you have got a different audience on Instagram to the audience that you've got on Facebook. And it's about, thinking about how you're interacting with those in those different platforms. So,
would you prefer, therefore, to have two different adverts, one for Facebook audience and one for Instagram? Would that be your preference?
You could. However, and this is another example that we ran. We did an advert for, there was an exhibition down at the Ricoh Stadium. It's called LockX. I'm sure the client won't mind us telling you. It's called LockX, and not this year, but the year before. They'd sold all the stands, and they'd got probably about 50% of the delegates signed up, but they needed more delegates there because they knew if they didn't get the delegates there, the stand holders would go, well, it's okay, but I expected more people here. So they knew that they needed to do something to get more delegates. So we did an advert for them, and we did a lookalike audience based on a custom audience, the custom audience being the delegates that were already going. So we had permission and agreement and marketing, we could market to those. So we took that data, we put that into Facebook, and we ran the advert across. There's basically about 5 different places you can run the advert. Now you can kind of go, I don't want it to show in Instagram or wherever, but what we thought is, well, we'll just run it across all of that. We felt that their target audience was in Facebook, but we weren't 100% sure. So we let it run across Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, Audience Network, which is third-party apps, actually. When you see a third-party app and you've got an advert on there, it's often a Facebook advert, but we're not aware of that. And so we ran the advert across all those platforms, and the data that we got back is that we did see, not extensively so, we got a lot within Facebook, but we did get some engagement through Instagram. So if you were to rule that out, it means you're losing a potential market there. So whilst sometimes it might be worth just trialing it out in one place, in a lot of respects, it's worth letting Facebook work for you, because it will put the advert where it feels your audience is potentially going to be. So, when we run adverts, we don't kind of specify just run it in Facebook or just run it in Instagram. You could do to see what results you get, but largely, let Facebook work for you, I would say, rather than you kind of try to, skew the figures, if you like, or, but it was really interesting because the thing is as well with the adverts, often we got something like, I think they spent £75 over a 2-week period, and we got something like 14,000 impressions, and we had, I think it was about 300 click-throughs to the website for where they could book. Now we don't know, because we don't have access to that, whether those bookings turned into actual bookings or whether they're just linked to the website. So sometimes we can't always tell the end result, if you like, but the client was absolutely delighted with the result from a £75 budget on the advertising, and then our time to put that advert together. A very short, not much cost at all, but he, is able to get more delegates coming to his event. So, it does work. It's a case of just try it, and I think you'll be quite surprised with the results. Another one that they could have done, but they didn't have time to do this, is if there'd have been a similar sort of event in a different area. Let's say there'd have been, I don't know, it's all to do with locksmiths. So let's say there'd have been a locksmith event up in Newcastle 2 months before. There's nothing to stop them doing an advert in that location when that event is on. So just on a Saturday afternoon from 12 o'clock till 4 or whenever it was. Because guess what, when people go to events, when they have a coffee, they sit and they look at their phone. And if you're doing an advert in that location at that time, you're hitting the target audience that you want to get to go to your event that might be in 2 months beyond then. So, there's lots you can do. I think it's just thinking a little bit more strategically and a bit more outside the box, let's say. So.
Yeah, and being connected with your own activities, your own kind of sales, kind of efforts out there. Any questions from you, Kenta?
In terms of other social media platforms such as Twitter and LinkedIn, how do you feel that that's evolving alongside these two?
Within in the context of advertising, or
yeah.
Okay, so Twitter, I think, still need to do quite a lot to get in line with the likes of Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. Whilst you can advertise on Twitter, and obviously people do, the process is still a little bit clunky. We have done some advertising for clients within Twitter, but sometimes you set an advert up and then you go back in and where's that advert? It's lost somewhere in the ether, let's say. So I think they just need to make it a little bit more user-friendly, if I'm honest. With LinkedIn, we're seeing that change massively. They're very much on it, and you can see that I think what they did in the past is like, we're not Facebook, we're not going to do what Facebook does. So they kind of went and tried to set their own path, if you like, which is fine. But since we all understand what Facebook is, and we understand how that works, I think more recently they've gone, do you know what, let's just do some of the stuff that Facebook are doing, but in our own little way. So, you can do something called Audience Network on, so it's tailored audiences on LinkedIn. So that means you can do a very similar thing, but you can target individuals and sectors and types of businesses, which it's excellent. So it's the same principle as Facebook doing the custom audience, the lookalike audience, but you have to have quite a lot of data to do that. You can't do it on a very low data. You've got to have a lot of information to do that. A lot of, if you're uploading your list, if you like, you've got to have a lot of people in that list to do that. It's also not quite as cost effective. It's more expensive to run adverts on LinkedIn. Because one of the things that Facebook have made a commitment to do is to be the cheapest form of advertising online. Basically, they want everybody to use their platform, clearly, to advertise. So they're looking at the likes of Google Ads and making sure that Facebook ads are cheaper than Google Ads. And whilst it's great that LinkedIn are going down that route, I think it's like anything, they've got to get some engagement, and then as they do that, it will come down in price. I genuinely feel that over time, the advertising on LinkedIn will be cheaper, and they are working on this. Again, it's that way you go to the options of what's your objective, and you can choose objectives, but you can't choose all the objectives yet. So they're working on it. You can see that in the background, which is good to see. And obviously, if your business is business to business, that's definitely a place to be advertising in. But you've got to accept that your budget is probably going to be a higher budget within there than it would be in somewhere like LinkedIn and Instagram. So yeah.
Can I build on that? And before we move on to asking you about the toolkit, have you found when it comes to the construct of the advert, whether, forgive me, landscape, square, portrait, and all the different variations, are there better ones? Have you found maybe colors work better, maybe typeface and font that work better?
We haven't found anything in terms of the size or the type font that you're using. What we have found is that, and I'm sure you'll love to hear this, Pascal, video works much better than a static image. Even if you're taking multiple pictures and putting them into a slideshow or a carousel or something like that, you're going to get more engagement and you're going to get better results from a video. I still feel that a lot of people are, I don't know, hesitant to use video. I think it's a little bit like the advertising. Partly, they're still a little bit hesitant to use it because they're not sure whether they've got the right skills or wherewithal to actually do it. And so they kind of they move away from it and they do, well, I know what static images are, so I'll do that, rather than trying to use some video content, even if it's just, something really simple, like a boomerang or something, but, using some form of moving content is going to get you a better result than a static image. And obviously within the adverts itself, if you're putting text onto graphics anyway, particularly with Facebook and Instagram, you're not going to get the results because Facebook don't like having text on images, and so they'll almost penalise you. You'll not get the same results by having text on an image. It used to be that you weren't allowed any more than 20% of text on an image. They've changed that, so you can have text on, but they'll tell you it's not going to get as the better results, let's say. So some of the ways to get around that is by doing video, and you can get around it a little bit better doing that, let's say. So yeah.
Excellent. So let's move on with our final segment, which is asking by your advice about how we could maybe build a social media advertising toolkit to make life a little easier.
Yeah.
We understand that following your advice, we need to have objective, we need to have a clear audience in mind and be prepared to be surprised if we do the lookalike audience and look at the stats and so on.
Yeah.
But have you found that there are some interesting, software and mobile phone apps that can make life a little easier?
I think for me, it's probably about starting with the end in mind. So although you want to look at your objective, you also, there's three elements. What's your objective? What's your audience? What does it look like? So when it comes to what does it look like, it's about making sure, again, with anything with social media, that it's the sort of thing that people want to, it's got to be thumb stopping. It's got to be something that people stop and look at. So your visuals have got to be spot on. If they're not, then you're wasting your money doing an advert if the end result is not something that people are going to stop and look at. So we use Canva quite a lot. We have a paid for version of Canva. It doesn't cost an arm and a leg. It's something like, I don't know, maybe £120 a year. But what it does mean is we can create graphics in those in Canva, but you can also create animated graphics. So that means that you've got some video content there really easily that can then be shared on social media. So we use that. We also use, but not extensively, so we use something called Biteable. So Biteable is another sort of platform that we use. Again, it's a paid for service, but I think again it's only about £100 a year. And it means you can create lots of little videos, and they give you some great, templates in there that you can use, that you can change the colours on it, and you can put your own branding in it, and they're great for just putting some really short, simple videos together. If you feel you haven't got, the skill to edit videos, then it's a great platform to use. Another one of our favourites as well is Quick. So we use Quick, that's Q-U-I-K, Quick. Another great tool just for creating simple videos. And a fantastic resource to go to that's always changing, and you don't even need to be on Facebook to get this, and it's not all about Facebook, is the Facebook Mobile Studio. If you go onto Facebook Mobile Studio, it tells you the top 10 apps that they would suggest for social media. So some of them are about overlaying text onto pictures, some of them are about creating videos, and just how to enhance your pictures, let's say. Also gives you within that the video of how it works, so it shows you screenshots of how it works, and it gives you the steps to go through to create some fantastic content. So that, there's some fantastic resources out there. I just find that sometimes there's so many resources out there. A lot of people get a little bit bamboozled about, well, which one should I use? Because they'll download something, try it out, doesn't work, and so they get a little bit disheartened by the amount and the plethora of apps there are out there. So maybe having a look at somewhere like Facebook Mobile Studio, if they're recommending them, they've got to be good, because they wouldn't recommend them otherwise. So, you know, those are ones that we use, and we often go back, because they change, so we often go back to Facebook Mobile Studio and see what they're suggesting on a regular basis. So, yeah.
Well, thanks for that. I didn't know about this one, so it's a wonderful heads up, and we'll make sure that we put all the hyperlinks to those apps and software in the show notes. I know that some friends of mine who are very active on Instagram got pretty excited when they were able to use a desktop version of Instagram.
Yeah.
Is it something that you've explored yourselves?
Yeah, we use it quite a lot. It has its limitations. There are some things you can't upload. You can't upload a video onto the desktop version. But you can use things like Hootsuite or Buffer to put those up onto, into Instagram. But yeah, it's something we use quite a lot to just check what's going on within Instagram and respond to comments or like comments, those kind of things. We also use something called Everliker, which I don't know if you've come across, but Everliker is a little bit of a widget that you can put in your Chrome extension, and you can put in there hashtags that you want your Instagram account to follow. And then what it will do is it will go out and it will like posts with those hashtags in. So it's a little bit of a bit sneaky, let's say, and we don't advocate that you use all automated processes, but if you are wanting to build your followers up based around a particular product, service, location, or even get people to kind of notice you, it's a bit like a flag. It's going, look, I'm here, this is what we talk about, then it's fine for that. But you know, obviously it's still about the onward engagement as well, but it's just a nice little tool that you can use to just let people know you're there, basically. So
thank you so much. Do you know, I've just realized that unfortunately our time together is coming to an end very, very soon. So before we close with maybe a final question, if you were to think maybe the one or two things people could do right now to get better results in 2019-20 for their Facebook and Instagram advertising, what would be the two things you want them to start to do maybe this week?
I would just check out Ads Manager. Definitely have a look at it, see how it looks and feels. Just get a bit more familiar with that. Build your confidence up in that. And maybe having a look at somewhere like Canva, if you're not using Canva, have a look at it. You know, I think it's a fantastic resource. Sadly, for graphic designers, not quite so much. They probably don't like it quite so much because it does some of them out of a little bit of work. But you know, it's such a simple tool for everyday, you know, engagement. It's just brilliant. And I often find, you know, if I'm delivering social media training and we mention Canva, I always sort of say, well, so who in the room is using Canva? You'll get a couple of people go, oh yeah, I use it, it's fantastic. But then it's always lovely that you've got a few people that don't use it, and I always kind of encourage them to go away and try it. So, you know, by trying anything like this, whether it's Canva, Ads Manager, whatever it is, the more you use it, the more familiar you'll get, the more confident you'll be. But, you know, you do have to try these things to just get a grip of them, really. I think you're not going to kind of just go on straight away and understand everything that's there. The more you leave it, the harder it's going to be to embrace it, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Excellent. Well, listen, I'm absolutely convinced that our viewers and listeners will have enjoyed our conversation, given some good pointers and things to explore. If and when they have some additional questions, well, we heard a moment ago, you don't mind answering questions and helping others. So where can they go to find out more about Social Progress and you, Janet?
Okay, clearly, because we're social media specialists, then we've got all the social media, set up. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, and also the central hub of all of that is our website. So www.socialprogress.co.uk, and you can contact us through the website, and obviously we're happy to answer any questions. Just send us a message through that, or info@socialprogress.co.uk would be great. Yeah.
So, final question for you, and Kent and I were talking about it. Now, I can't recall, but some time ago, obviously, I saw a message about you going to the Facebook offices.
Mm-hmm.
I must confess, I was a little envious, and I'm sure I've told you about this. So, what was it like inside? What was it like inside the Facebook offices?
So I've been very fortunate to go 3 times, Pascal. Sorry to put that to you. So I've been to Facebook in Dublin in 2017 and Facebook in London in 2018 and 2019. And it probably is just as you'd expect it to be. It's very relaxed. There's loads of space to just go and sit and work. And that is exactly what you see. You'll see somebody with a laptop sat on a chair in a corridor. And I don't mean a corridor being a narrow corridor. It's a big open space with some lovely comfy chairs. They've got, if you, particularly in Dublin, if you go to the top floor in the offices in Dublin, you'll really hate this. They've got, there's a pool table that you can just go and play pool at work. Just thinking time. There's an ice cream parlour, you can get free ice cream there. There's a coffee stand, you can get free coffee. There's a sweet stand there that you can just go and get yourself some sweets. So the employees are really well looked after. Everybody looks like they're enjoying being there. Well, why would it? It is an amazing place to be. They took us on a part that was obviously just for delegates, but they also took us behind the scenes, if you like, to actually go and see the actual officers. Which was fantastic. And even if you want some quiet time and some space to have a meeting like we're having now, there's some little booths that you can book to just be on a call like that. So they really have thought about how people want to work and how to make that the most productive way and give people the space to be creative. So, it is fantastic place to be. Often you'll see as well, so you'll see this now, you might not understand what they are now. You might see, if you've ever seen an office that's Facebook, you might see a balloon that's got a number 1 or a number 2 or whatever. They celebrate every single year that somebody's, if I'd been in Facebook for a year, I would get a balloon with a number 1 on, 2, etc., etc., etc. So they're very good at celebrating and embracing their staff and seeing them as part of a big family. So, yeah, great place to be, I have to say. Loved it. Brilliant.
So did that give your staff some ideas, or start to demand a pool table and some ice cream parlours?
Well, yeah, it's the cost of that, isn't it, really? If I did advertising and, we got lots of money coming in to pay for that, then that would be lovely. But yeah, it is, it's about making sure that, I think one thing we do in our own little way, we try and make sure that our staff are supported, helped, made to feel valued. In our own little way, we might go out for lunch every now and again, and it's Social Progress that'll pay for that. We just make sure that we take some time out. It's not all work, work, work. It's about enjoying where you work as well, and hopefully.
So I've seen the amazing cakes though, so forget the ice creams. I think you have a fair bit of nice treats in the office.
We do have, we probably don't have cake as often as people think that we do, I have to say, but because obviously what we want to project out with through our social media, like anybody, if we all we talked about was social media and sort of said Facebook's doing this, LinkedIn's doing that, then for a lot of people, they kind of switch off fairly quickly. So we try and be social, let's say, and one of the things that has become quite a hook for us is the cake. I'm not saying we don't eat cake, and we're very fortunate to have some very lovely local, cafes and stuff that do, if they've got some leftover cake, they'll kind of like, oh, we didn't sell all these, so we thought we'd bring them for you. So that's totally fine for us. But often on a Friday, and we might do it tomorrow actually, it's Friday tomorrow, we often go up to a local coffee shop and just get coffee and cake and stuff. So we might do that today, because we've got a day where we haven't got any meetings in, let's say, so that might be quite nice to do that. So, but yeah, we just try and be social really. At the end of the day, that's what we're here for, is to be social and social media. So yeah.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Well, listen, a big thank you for your time today. For our viewers and listeners, a huge thank you for your support. Do keep those questions and suggestions coming. And should you apply the advice given by Janet, do keep in touch with her and let her know that it's working, because I'm sure you'll be very pleased to know that. And that keeps us sharp anyway. That's a goodbye from me, goodbye from Akanta, and a goodbye from Janet.
Thank you. Goodbye. Bye.